What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Hope Shot. Hope everybody had a great weekend and chilling and relaxing. We all know Caesar had a really good week, I should say. Me and Nate had an amazing weekend. Rudolph,
I had a terrible weekend.
and why is that,
I'm
buddy?
just kidding. I didn't
This
have a terrible
Rudolph is right here.
Stop it. Stop it.
And we're both wearing black, and we didn't do this on purpose. Promise.
No,
Yeah.
Sure, you did.
It was church today, so you know.
I did it to blend into the night.
Like the good creeper he is.
You merely adopted the darkness.
Oh man. If you guys just jumping on, say what's up, let us know you're here. Say hi. Say I'm here. Let us know. And Caesar, while you're doing that, Caesar, will you read that beautiful clarity statement?
Oh, the clarity statement.
Yeah, you know that one thing. You still on vacation?
The Hope Shot clarity statement. We here at the Hope Shot are a group of people in recovery spreading inspiration. We come from all different walks of life and pathways of recovery. Our verbiage may be different at times, but we all have one thing in common. Recovery is a lifestyle. We support all pathways of recovery. It doesn't matter how you get from A to Z, just get there. And thank you for being a part of our Hope Shot family.
Thanks, Caesar. All right, let's see. I got the little thing right here. I forgot. Let me get this right here. All right. So so tonight, man, we're gonna be talking about what's we gonna talk about?
Making amends.
And why is that the topic for tonight? You got something to share on that?
Actually, I do.
All right.
It's funny you should mention that.
Yeah, you know, things happen.
So is that my cue?
That's your cue.
I mean,
Okay.
and I mean,
Here's
I don't
your
know.
time.
That's your cue.
Yeah, so making amends. I recently had an experience that was, just wild. And so I some details I can't completely go into, but I will say there is a person from my past, a person that I've never met, actually, that I have really close ties to. And I was very scared. I was afraid. I was reluctant, nervous, anxious. I had all the feelings that come along with, how do I apologize to somebody that I may have hurt, or anybody and everybody else that it may have affected, because in my addictions, well, not being present for a lot of things can take a toll. I had to get courageous, and I had to deal with, like, okay, I'm nervous, I'm scared, whatever, but like eventually you have to kind of get over that hurdle. Like with anything in recovery, you have to grit your teeth and kind of jump through the fire. And so the other night I talked to this person on the phone, and I was a stuttering, blubbering mess for probably the first 15, 20 minutes of this conversation. And the whole time I just kept telling myself, like, this is where you need to be. This is where recovery has brought you. Now you're here. Now you're at this point. You have the opportunity to make amends and to, hopefully clear some error and basically try to explain myself. And it was hard. And I'm thankful, very thankful and grateful. I actually had Crystal with me, and to have somebody there with you when you're going through one of these like really, really crazy hurdles is awesome. So I was blessed in that fact. But yeah, I mean, over the last 2 years in my recovery, making amends has been a common theme, and in much bigger ways than I ever would have imagined. I mean, it wasn't really just like, okay, I'm sorry I cut you off, in traffic, or I'm sorry I interrupted your conversation, but like people I never expected to see, situations and circumstances I never imagined being in, and just being able to go back and apologize to people, or even just to say thank you to people that were very, very influential, or that were key parts of my addiction or recovery. So that for me, that's been the biggest part of my recovery is making amends, and I was blessed to be able to do that in a really, really big way the other night. And so that's all I got, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, man. Let's say what's up to some people. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was interrupting. I was like directing traffic. I was over here directing traffic. Yeah. We're not used to doing this in the living room, which is cool. All right, let's say some stuff up to those people. We got Lisa. What's going on? How are you? Thanks for being here. We got Rachel. Thank you for sharing, Rachel. We have Steve, Big Steve. What up, Steve?
Have I met Steve?
I think so. If not, you're missing out.
Okay.
And oh, love the new video out. Thank you so much, Steve. That was a product of this guy, that guy, this guy, and other guys. It was a bunch of guys. It was it was really good, man. We put a lot of time and effort into that, and Nate's freaking interviewing skills are phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. Nate killed it.
I swear, he's good, man. Terry, what's up? Thanks for being here. Good to see you. The Bills 21 to 10. Who? My Bills are way higher than that. I don't know about you. Oh man. Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll speak on some amends, because I recently had some too. But first, before we go into the men's, man, I want to talk about real quick the grand opening. This last weekend we had the grand opening, and it was amazing, and we want to talk about the amends process. The amends process is to our community as well. What we've been able to do with this organization and in the past 4 years is nothing short of a miracle. And you want to talk about making amends. I mean, I had not every single, but I had a lot of family members of mine at the event, to see this thing popping. Let's there's a lot of amends that happen along the way, but also the biggest one is back to society, because I was out here ripping and running for so long, causing destruction. It was like me doing this Forza.
Yeah, Forza. Oh God.
Driving. He has a video game I was playing a little bit ago, is Forza, and I'm sitting here trying to stay on the road. It's exactly like that. I'm trying to stay on the road, and I'm all in the bushes, tearing up trees, taking down power lines. That was me and my recovery. I mean, me and my addiction, just tearing everything up, couldn't just path of destruction all along the way. And to do things like this, to bring community together with both ends, between the recovery community, the business community, the pretty much all of it, man. It was really cool to see and witness and be a part of. I had my sister there, my nieces, it's cool because my cousin's seen the video of Gus Bilirakis on stage with us, and it was my grandma's old law partner. They graduated law school together, and she texted me and she was like, Grandma would be so proud, and just, you know what I mean? And it was just like, that's amends, this, and let's segue in that. And my aunt, my cousin were there, that's never happened before. But also, in Christmas time, I went to my aunts and uncles, and I was actually able to do an amends, like a verbal amends to them. It's one thing, yeah, you change and you do some things different, right? But to do actually the action steps behind that and actually admit, responsibility for what you've done, it's a whole different level of freedom that we experience. And that's why, doing this recovery deal, man, it's important to go through and do every, the steps are in line for a reason, right? And that's what it's about, is like not being scared to do those things, and being in a place where you can. And it's been really cool this last couple months being able to do all these things, and being able to make amends to the family that I have, because my whole life I didn't have family, you know what I mean? Because I burnt all the bridges. I tore everything up. They're like, you ain't got no family. So I was never really family oriented, and being able to be around them for a little bit of Christmas was really cool. And to experience that freedom from just expressing it was really neat. But man, yeah, it was a awesome weekend. Really thankful and grateful for everybody that came out and was a part of it. I still pinch myself about what we get to do and what we're doing here in this community with the people involved. It's really neat. So that's what I got, man. So I don't know if you guys want to jump in on this. I can
jump in on it. We got to save Nate's piano for last.
According to Rudolph, he can play whatever the hell he wants.
There it is, kid.
Oh my God.
Look.
All right, we need a solo, bro. We need a solo. I'd already have that thing ripped open.
I got another one for you somewhere, I think. Oh yeah.
Oh, hold up.
Yeah, I got you another one right here.
That's
play
piano.
A little tune there, Rudolph. All right, here.
All right.
So the amends process for me is, like you said, Justin, it comes on later. Steps are in order for a reason, and everybody wants to go out and make right all the wrongs as soon as they get into recovery. And I've seen a lot of people crash and burn because of it, because they can't handle the answer being no, I don't forgive you, because that's a very possible thing that can happen in an amends. So it's set further along so that you've got a firm spiritual foundation grounded in whatever you believe, and you've done some work, you've done some of the crap out of you, you've gotten rid of some of the baggage, and you're ready to actually face these things. Because basically in the steps, everything that we've done up until the 9th step is internal. We make a decision, we write something down, we talk to a guy that we know pretty well. Like we're not going out into the world and really facing the wreckage of our past until this step. So I had a counselor or therapist, whatever, in the rehab that I was in, and I had my sponsor, and I talked to both of them a lot about these things, and there was an overwhelming consensus that I'm sorry should not be in the conversation from me at all. And it started with my therapist, because she knew my whole story. She's like, you've said I'm sorry so much that it just sounds like you're introducing yourself and your name is sorry. It's like, hi, I'm sorry, and you were never sorry. You were sorry you got caught. And I was like, 100%, you're correct. That I was always very sorry that I got caught for whatever it was. So once I got my my head above water, working steps, doing what I was supposed to do. Got out of the rehab, got plugged into the community, going to meetings, chairing meetings, doing all the stuff and things that come with early recovery. The time came that it was time to go out and start making these amends. And for me, I had to talk to my sponsor basically before each one and go over it, because there's some people that caused me a lot of harm that I had to go make amends to. And I couldn't bring that up. It was about cleaning up my side of the street. It was about me being accountable for the crap that I had done and asking what I could do to make it right. It wasn't about I'm sorry. So I had to be prepared, if it was financial and I said, what can I do to make it right? I had to be prepared to accept whatever the answer was, and if it's, hey, I want you to pay me back. Okay. Enough said. That's it. I will start paying you back. I've got a crappy job. I can pay you back this much a week, whatever that looked like. If it was, and I talk about this a lot, like if it's parents, for me, yes, I did financial harm, but the main thing I stole from my parents was peace of mind and time. I don't know how many nights they stood up wondering if I was going to make it home, wondering if they were going to get a phone call that I was dead. And really, like, they vocalized to me that they felt much better when I was in jail, because at least they knew I was somewhere safe. So my amends to them, besides the actual words, were to give them their time back and give them their peace of mind back. And I did that by showing up for the better part of 2 years until my dad passed away. Show up, show them that I'm okay. Keep stopping by, take them grocery shopping, take my dad out to go get a haircut, just do whatever they needed me to do. It was just to be there and to make that commitment to be there, to give them that peace of mind where after a year of continually showing up with a car and a job and no track marks, they kind of let their shoulders down and they were breathing a little easier, because seeing is believing. I'd said I was making changes. I said I was doing things in the past, but I never actually did them. So this time, after about a year of continuous showing up and helping any way I could, you could see they finally let their guard down, and they were like, man, like you could just see it on their faces. They knew I was going to be okay. And that was a big deal. So, if you're new and you're ready to go out there and make amends, and you're ready to go out and just fix everything, it doesn't always work that way. If your story is anything like mine, I was one lie on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. My word did not mean anything. My word was worthless. And the only thing that changed people's opinions of me was actions. I could say, hey, I want to make it right, and whatever I may say that came out of my mouth. But the thing that made it tangible was them visibly seeing me doing the next right thing, day in, day out, weeks, months, years. That's how you earn trust back. It's not with words. So the amends deal is super important. It's super important to be able to be on solid ground and be able to handle somebody telling you that, nah, I don't want anything to do with you. Get the hell out of my face. And you got to be okay with that. I had a couple of those, not a lot, but I had a couple. Like, why would you darken my door again? Well, I'm trying to change the way I'm living, and I'm doing this recovery thing, and this is part of the process. Good for you. Have a great day, sir. Adios. All right. But I did my part. I showed up, explained, my view of what I did wrong, asked if I was missing anything and what I could do to make it right. And what I could do to make it right was stay the hell out of their lives, and I respect that. It's not fun to hear, but I absolutely respect that you do not want to allow me back in after the damage that I did. And that's okay. So whether it's making amends for something you did yesterday, speaking sideways to a wife or a husband or your kids or something like that, whether it's something simple like that or it's decades of pain, you have to approach it the right way. The best amends is change behavior. So don't go in there with words. Go in there with words and action to be able to back those words up and be able to show that you're a different person, because words don't fit the bill. We talked a lot of slick crap in the past and we made a lot of promises and none of them meant shit. So action, action, action always. I don't know. That's like my 2 cents on that. I'm sure Nate's got some super wise Buddhist piano solos to drop. Nathan.
He has to go put the piano in there in order to drop. So
Is that like you?
If you install that, I'm gonna come over and use your bathroom just to let you know, just so I can play a piano.
It definitely works.
Is it a toilet piano for your feet?
Yes, potty piano.
Oof.
Yes.
So now he can Elton on the John.
Elton while he's melting.
Yes.
Or smelting.
Yeah. I just
all right, we're done here.
A little Liberace after hibachi.
I just love my friends.
We love you, buddy.
Liberace after hibachi.
Oh,
Dead.
boy.
Woo.
Yeah, great topic. I really love what Caesar said.
Sorry.
Elton on the John. Yeah. Yeah, that one got me a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, God. Way to go, Rudolph.
Speaking of amends,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
he's been holding that stuff in a little bit.
So
He's-
sorry
he had to let the world know.
It took everybody a couple minutes to catch on too. Yeah. So anyway, so amends. Whew. I mean, I really like I like what everybody had to say, because I happen to know exactly what Rudolph's talking about, and with his amends, and yeah, it's a tricky business, man. And I heard this one speaker. He always says, "How free do you want to be?" Right? And that's been my story. It's like anything that I'm holding on to. I spent so long being ashamed of who I was. I was afraid to go to certain events, certain neighborhoods, to face certain individuals, certain groups. And what this process, what recovery has afforded me, is the freedom to be proud of who I am, to hold my head high, to not be afraid to face anybody. And it's Caesar touched on it. It's such a difficult process because whenever I finally get sober and I start to feel better, and I know that I've surrendered, I know that I'm with what direction I'm heading in, every fiber of my being wants to scream from the rooftops, "I'm sorry." And thankfully, from good fellowship, good sponsorship, and being around a good group of guys, they let me know that's one of, let me not say my last acts of selfishness, because I'm selfish and self-centered all the time, but it's that last bit of selfishness I'm still hanging on to, because really I don't want to say I'm sorry. I don't even know what saying sorry or changing my behavior to truly make the amends is at that point in my recovery. I just want to feel better about myself. you know. I just want to feel better. I just want to feel better about who I am, because I'm coming into this deal racked with guilt and shame. I feel disgusted about who I was, and it's all hitting me at once, you know? Like, because I don't have my solution anymore. I don't have the drugs and the alcohol to make me forget about those horrible things that I've done, and everything that I, oh boy. Anyway, oh, you guys are throwing me off. I was just
Sorry, I just wanted to see if it worked on his camera.
Yeah, he was
That's my
testing it out.
fault.
He wanted me to see
Yeah,
if
it works just fine. Where was I? Oh yeah, so yeah, and so it's only natural to come into here and want to make things right. But the best, oh, thank God for having strong spiritual men in my corner when I first got here, because there was some cleaning up to do. You know, I was not even in a position really, you know, because how am I going to go early in recovery to somebody that I owe $10,000 to and tell them I'm sorry? What do you say? Yeah, you're sorry. All right. You know what I mean? Yeah, again, I just wanted to feel better about who I was. And, oh my God, it's loud here too. I'm distracted every angle, man. You guys, these guys, all overs. Anyway, so, you know, I for the first time in my life, I truly surrendered, right? And for the first time in my life, I took direction, and I didn't, you know, rush ahead. I didn't, you know, do it my own way. I went, you know, in the order that this thing was meant to go in, and because of it, you know, I reaped the rewards. And don't get it twisted, man. They say this is a selfish and selfless program, and this and that, but I promise you that there are rewards from this work. You know, they might not be shiny new cars and relationships, but what they are is I start to be able to live with who I am. I start to be able to forgive who I was, and what is given to me once I start, you know, because I first had the first like tangible results of this recovery process doing, you know, my inventory, right? And having, not just writing it, you know, I knew all the bullshit that had haunted me and kept me up and led me to escape on a daily basis. You know, I knew that. It was obvious. That was easy for me. But sharing that shit with another guy, being completely honest for the first time in my entire life, telling him all that dark and weird shit that drove me nuts, and, you know, that I thought I would bring to my grave. You know, that kind of was like my introduction into the club, if you will. And to not be judged by it, and for them to, you know, point out how 99% of the time, you know, it was me that was stepping on the toes of my fellows, and they were retaliating, you know, and I was able to, for the first time, take responsibility and be accountable for, you know, what I had done. You know, for once I wasn't the victim anymore, you know, and then, you know, going through, you know, 6 and 7 and starting to get into 8 and 9, I started to feel what it was like to maybe be okay with my past. And through the amends process, which, you know, almost 7 years later, I'm still making, you know, I'm still paying off amends. I'm still, you know, available to make some other amends if presented with the opportunity. And that right there, though, you know, actually going out, like Caesar said it pretty well, you know, I can't say it any better. You know, this is where I take all the work I've done wherever I'm at, and I bring it out into the world. And I'm supposed to be, you know, proud of where I'm at that time, And I have to come to the table for once with something to offer instead of looking for something to take. And you know, that was a lot for a guy like me, because I went into every situation outcome dependent. I always felt if I wasn't seeking some sort of validation, I was seeking some sort of appreciation, or for you to like me. And for once, I came in here with straight humility, knowing, and maybe not completely, but I knew I was enough, and that I had something to offer. And that was the promise, that whatever I spoke and whatever these amends were, I knew that I could follow up. I knew that I could keep my promise. And that was groundbreaking for somebody who did nothing but break promises in life for the last 2+ decades. And I felt like just a sense of freedom, a freedom like I'd never known before. They read these promises in a lot of the meetings we go to, and you hear it every day, and it becomes kind of like white noise, like blah 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 blah. But this shit is true, man. And what did I write the other day? I was journaling in the morning, and I wrote like, oh no, maybe it was in my gratitude. I think it was in my gratitude. I came into this deal thinking that I'd get the car back, I'd get the girl back, I'd get the job, and I thought that's what I really wanted. And then thank God, I got so much more than what I could conceive of or dream of at that time. Because what I got is like, I got love, I got acceptance, I got faith, hope, reliance. I got my sense of self back, my self-esteem back. I got, a sense of pride, not the sinful kind, but being proud of the man I was. And most importantly, I got what it did. It transformed my entire past into an asset, not the liability that I had been carrying around my neck like an albatross. Like I thought I had this weight, and this is why it perpetuated my alcoholism and addiction. It was the reason I wanted to numb myself. And all of a sudden I was shown, through this process, that I can take this experience, however seemingly tragic it might have been, and I can use it to help another gentleman, recover from this disease like I had. And that right there, that gave me, my purpose. I was able to, truly dig in at that point and know, what direction I was going in. And so years later, like, what's that look like? How do I make amends to the mom that passed away when I was in treatment, that I didn't get to say bye to? That was my biggest champion and my best friend. Knew that she saw something in me long before I ever did. How do I make that amends? So, I make that amends by showing up for my dad on a daily basis. I make that for my dad being at this event and seeing me present, and seeing, how much part of the community and what I do on a daily basis, which is give back to others. And him coming up to me in tears damn near and saying how proud he was of me, that there's that amends to not only him, but my mom. I make the amends by showing up for my brother and my nephews and going out to surf with Eric, because all she ever wanted was us to have a relationship, right? And, and then my daughters that I can't see yet. How do I make amends to them, right? And people say this all the time. I don't know how I could go through with that. I don't know how you deal with it. And I say, why wouldn't I be able to deal with it? I have this power. I am connected to this thing that gives me it doesn't give me forgiveness. Forgiveness is already there. I just have to I have to show up to grab it, right? And but how do I make those amends to them? I make those amends by being the best damn father figure I can to my stepkids. I do that by helping other moms, children get sober. You know, I do that by having integrity and character and showing up on a daily basis to create a space for me to experience the blessings of potentially making those amends in person one day. You know, however, you know, if I said, oh, fuck it, I can't get back in their life, I'm just going to get low. Now I'm going in the opposite direction. At least the way I'm living, I know I'm moving towards them, not away from them. And yeah, man. And then, you know, what we don't talk about on here a lot, and when we talk about amends, how about those financial amends? How are those going for everybody? Let me tell you something about those, man. That is a freedom. That is a freedom, you know, like to pay your creditors, it says, right? And I this last couple of years, I've been in the process of paying off all those, you know, to where, you know, they'll give a guy like me credit cards now and give me a car loan and potentially approve me to buy a house. And I'm not worried about who I owe or, you know, being in collections anymore. And I don't know about you guys, but that raises me to a whole nother adulting level that I never thought I would ever be on. And then I think it's important to talk about the daily amends we make, you know, when we make mistakes. You know, I know this is a 9-step deal, but we can talk about the 10th. You know, it's like, how am I utilizing my program to make sure that when I make a mistake in a day that I'm making it right promptly? And you know, we're gifted with these beautiful tools, and they're more than just words in a book. You know, they tell me if I do these things, I get this experience, right? And so how do I keep getting this spiritual experience? I don't want to stay sober on amends I made back in year 1 and year 2, you know. So I keep doing these things. I keep showing up, and I utilize, you know, the gifts of recovery that have been passed down to me. It's not something I came up with. It's something that's worked for 80, 90 something years. And why wouldn't I utilize it? So, yeah, amends is, I love what, Steve said, man. You know, it's that ability to be able to be okay with who you are for the first time in my life. I was okay of who Nathan was. And it made me, feel like, you know, just a better man, a better human being. You know, I don't have to look over my shoulder today. I can look people in the eye. You know, I know there's nobody that can say, you know, Nathan is a bad person today. And that's a miracle for someone like me. All right. I got through it despite all the distractions.
Dude, I love that.
I apologize. I just want to see if Rudolph could do it.
It's okay.
You know?
Okay.
It's okay.
You know? I want him to do one thumb, really. You know, but he has to be an overachiever.
Yeah, Nate, you did a good job of talking about like the self-esteem and the holding your head up high that comes from this thing, because I was the same way. Like, sure, there was whole areas of Tampa I couldn't go to because I couldn't remember who I ripped off, who I told what lie to. Lived in constant fear of like 2 people being in the same room at the same time that I told 2 different stories to. Like, all of that, when you go to people one by one and go through this process, like that fear of like looking over my shoulder, that shame of holding your head down all the time, like it transforms you when you face all that stuff. You're talking about the financial amends. Like, my sponsor was such a sweetheart, but he had some things that he would say that there was no wiggle room. You know, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said something about my money, like my money, like I got my money is going to this right now. And he just stopped me and he goes, "It's not your money, buddy. You've owed these people for years. It's their money you're holding on to and you need to pay them back." And I'm like, oh, and, you know, I had to have that, you know, spelled out to me. It's not my money. Just because I've got money in my pocket, I owe these people and I've owed them for a very long time. And I'm not holding on to my money. I'm holding on to their money. And it shifted my perspective. And I was like, man, how would I feel if I was the one that was owed the money? You know, and just like a good sponsor does, they flip it around on you and make you think about it from a different angle. And all of a sudden I was willing to let go of my money and make it their money again. You know, whether it be $5 here and there, whatever I could afford at the time. But, it was just another step in the direction of freedom, of not having yet another excuse of why I need to put something in my body because everyone hates me, or because, you know, I've burned every bridge, or whatever it is that the excuse is. 4 and 5, 6 and 7, and then 8 and 9 is like the last unpacking of the bag of bullshit, you know, like because 10, 11, and 12 is keeping the bag unpacked and staying good. But that 8 and 9, man, like we unload the last bit of guilt and shame and can face the world with our head held high. And I freaking love that. Like, I don't want that to be glazed over, because that freedom is so much more, like you said, like of a gift than when they tell you, and you know, when you first come in and they're like, oh, a life beyond your wildest dreams. And you're like, not my wildest dreams, bro. Like, and they're all these superficial monetary, like cars and houses and this and that. Like, if I would have sold myself so short if that's what my goals had stayed as, you know, but recovery shifted my views to like, what's more important, the monetary things, or being able to lay my head down at night and sleep without having a head full of guilt and shame and just all that shit that rolls around in there, to be able to face, like, you know, I did all my dirt in Tampa. I go into Tampa all the time. Some of those people that I made amends to had nothing but nice things to say about me. Like, I thought I like ruined their life. That was a thing that I was not ready for at all, is that their view was that I was not that bad of a guy. I villainized myself in my head from all these things, that I'm just a piece of shit. And some people are like, dude, you were always a good guy. You were always nice to me. You never, you know, yeah, you were messed up, but you weren't a horrible person. And I would hear that and I'd be like, yeah, maybe they don't remember who I was, you know, like, but that's their perspective, is that I wasn't that bad. And I needed to hear that, just like I needed to hear from the people that told me, no, you were that bad. You're a piece of shit and I don't forgive you. Go away. You know, like, I needed both sides of that.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Powerful.
It is. It is. I definitely
Yeah, the
think I
things we
get
make.
more growth out of that than anything else. Was like, that's the grow up part of being able to face my bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's thinking that we can't come back from something that we've done in the past, you know, and keeping us locked down and stuck in the past, really. You know, I mean, there's so many times I didn't think I was going to be able to come out of it, you know, and the guilt and shame was so crippling at times, you know. Just the thought of making amends, or you know, facing my family, you know, that guilt and shame, like you talked about, you know, looking somebody in the freaking eye. Oh my God. What I remember when that, like, you want to talk about when the drugs were lifted, right? The obsession to use. What about the time that was lifted from me, that I was able to look somebody in the eye? That was a spiritual awakening for me, man. I was able to look at somebody in the eye without so much shame and guilt, you know. And there's levels to this forgiveness thing, you know. At first, it's just, you know, getting past the not putting something in you to even, you know, deal with life or be able to deal with people or be around anybody, really. And then being able to get out into the public and look someone in the eye is a whole different ball game, especially when, like me, I was a business owner. I was out there, you know, it was my day-to-day jobs. I had to do sales. I had to like look people in the eye. You know what I mean? How the hell are you going to do that when you have so much, when you're filled with shame and guilt, man? And, you know, and then making these scenarios in my head about it, you know, after the fact, you know, so, yeah, it's a freeing moment when that happens, you know. And what about the biggest amends of all? To yourself, you know, for all the crap that you put yourself through. You know, I think the one thing, you know, I see it all the time when everybody's like, you know, like when we do these videos, right? We do these videos, everybody's like, oh God, there's me. You know what I mean? How many times do we hear that? I'm guilty. You know what I mean? I used to do it all the time, where I was just like, just not even ashamed, just my biggest critic, you know. If I talk to somebody else the way I talk to myself, man, I would have no friends, you know. Let's talk about that for a moment. You know, it's like I had to forgive myself and start just loving myself a little bit, you know, a little bit more each day. And as I got through this process and started working on myself, that's when things started to lighten. I started to lighten up on myself. You know, I was my biggest bully, and it sucks living like that. You know, I think the biggest moment is when we free ourselves from that negative self-talk that holds us back, right? And it's mostly that's why this amends process is so important. So these things that hold us back, even when we don't think they might hold us back, we might not think that these little micro amends are important, but they are, you know, and also like not thinking that we can have these little amends, but the shit holds us back. That shame and guilt might be like, yeah, I've worked on it. I've done some things. And then we have a moment in time where something happens and it brings it all right back up. You know, when we tell our stories, shame and guilt come out. When I go through this process, it does not hold power anymore. Exactly. You know?
Yeah,
go ahead.
That's the transformation.
So I actually have a question for all three of you, because I feel like I'm probably the youngest in recovery years, so to speak. I don't know. I've got 2 years. You've got how many?
I'm coming up on 7 here.
You're coming up on 7. Caesar, you've got what, 9, 10?
Oh, so, yeah, big old decade.
So my question for you guys, because I didn't really have anybody to guide me through this specific part of it as far as making amends, and I know the three of you each have sort of a different background and a sort of different pathway into recovery and different experiences with it. So my question for the three of you is, did you ever have a scenario or situation that you were just completely afraid to approach because of, well, whatever the circumstances were? And it is actually a 2-part question. So that part, and the second part to that question is, when you approached making amends, did you go out and did you hunt people down? Did you look for people to go set out and make amends to them? Or did you wait for those people to come to you, or wait for the situation or circumstance to present itself for you, or was it a combination of both?
I was going to say, I'll quote Nate, both of them.
Both of them. Yeah, I have a good answer for that too. Go ahead, Caesar.
No, I mean, but it really was, because there's some that were lower on my list. Like I had a list of people, and there was those big, glaring, close to home ones that, I don't know about y'all's experience, but I can imagine that the people I hurt most were the people that were closest to me. And those were like the top of the list. Not hard to find, you know, they're my family. And then it went on from there. But then like I never had social media, because I had absolutely nothing to share with the world of any value at all. And then in 2012, I was in a rehab, and I got Facebook, and I really believed I was going to stay in recovery when I left there, but I didn't change anything. I just believed it was magically going to happen. I was going to be sober for the rest of my life. And I had friended all these people, and they watched that was my only evidence. They watched the spiral that happened from the day I was released till 60 days later. And because of that, when I bounced back, those people from my past now, because of social media, were easy to find. And those were people that I needed to make amends to. So I could do something simple like shoot them a message on Facebook Messenger. Hey, there's some stuff that happened in the past. I'd love to meet with you face to face. And, some people left it maybe they never look at it. Some of them were immediately, I know what you're trying to do, man. Yeah. I'll be back in town next week and let's have lunch. People I grew up with, a lot of them are familiar with some kind of a 12-step program. I had to actively seek out people, and I got all kinds of God nudges that were like, this is a person you need to, they're just boom in your face one day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
And my other, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I just wanted to add to, I believe that, again, like what I led with, how free do you want to be? It says we'll go to any lengths, right, to get this deal. So what am I willing to do? And in literature, like Caesar and I read, like it says, I mean, well, is it going to cause harm to another, right? There's discernment that has to come into this process. If you're going into it to for selfish gains, to feel better about who you are, or are you going into this situation to truly amend the situation and give back? We want to bring something into this dynamic, not take away anything from it, right? And there were some that I had, I mean, for my own recovery, for my own freedom, I had to actively seek out. There were some that I had to be patient with, and there are some that I still have to be patient with that just kills me on a daily basis, that I can't go knocking on these doors and say what I really want to say. So, I was writing this morning, right? And it just came to me as, I was meditating and writing my journaling, and it said, how we're always saying, God just showed up. He showed up, right? And what came to me this morning was that God doesn't show up, he's already there. He's always there. We just how do we become aware that he's there? How do we tap in to that? And for me, going after and making these amends, becoming willing and taking the action to actively seek out and make these things right, not just so I feel better about myself, but because I want to bring peace into a situation that I brought confusion and disruption and chaos to, right? If I go into it with that intention, and most importantly, I have to invite my higher power into this equation. If I'm trying to figure this shit out on my own, that's a messy business there. But if I'm inviting, this power into the proceedings and being like, please direct me, give me the opportunity, give me the strength, and that's when the magic will happen. That's when the doors will be open that might not be for you at this time. That's when you're a blubbering idiot, you'll get the words to articulate that, aren't so much coming from you, but are coming from, this power that, when tapped into, will work in and through us in a way that's indeed miraculous.
Dude, and I'll expound on that. For if somebody's working a program that's not a 12-step program, you please still find like a trusted advisor. Find somebody that you can talk to and run things by. So I'll quote one of my sponsees from the past. It's I can't fix my broke brain with my broke brain. I can't be the one that's calling all the shots. I gotta, and we're always talking about the higher power here and that God consciousness. But early on, you gotta have an advisor, man. You gotta have somebody to bounce things, someone that you respect, someone that's gonna shoot you straight. You gotta have a Steve. You gotta have a big Steve. Everyone needs a big Steve.
Oh man.
So I mean, you gotta have a guy that's gonna hold you accountable. Or guy, girl. I'm saying guy because I'm a guy. But you gotta have that person in your life that you trust and that you're willing to go to, that's gonna tell you the right thing to do, even when it's the hard thing, even when it's not what you want to hear. I had a sponsor, and I had another guy that was not he ended up being my sponsor later on in life, but I knew that he was not going to mince words, and I would call him and like brace for the answer. And it was always the thing that I didn't want to do. It was always the hardest thing. I'd be like, hey man, what would you do in this situation? I knew, but I needed to hear him say it. And he would say it. I go, yeah, that's what I figured you'd say, but now I'll do it because you said so. I knew it would be the crappy option. You were crappy for me.
It's usually how it goes, right?
Mm.
Well,
It's never the
that's
easy
it for
option,
tonight,
right?
man. What's that?
I said it's never the easy option. Those guys just don't give us that.
No, definitely not. And if we want the easy option, we know which way that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it for tonight, man. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you guys got something out of this about the amends process and what we can do about it, in this moment, and maybe work towards it. And hopefully there you're on that road, to be able to get rid of that, get freedom from that shame and guilt, and reunite with families and those relationships and all that. Because I know that's where we are. That's where I am. I know that's where Rudolph, Caesar, and Nate have definitely been. We've heard all from everybody. So we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in. There we go. Do it off.
Yeah.
So we'll see you guys next time right here on the Hope Shot. Till then,
Good night.